I was talking to a friend recently, and she mentioned that her sister just ended a 5-year relationship. And apparently, everyone in the family had been waiting for it to happen for like 3 years.
Oh, wow. So everyone knew it wasn't working except her?
I mean, maybe she knew too, but she stayed anyway. And I've been thinking about that a lot since then. Like, why do people do that? Why do we stay in things that clearly aren't right?
That's such a loaded question. I think there's so many layers to it that it's hard to even know where to start.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's not as simple as they should just leave, even though from the outside it seems obvious.
I think most people have done it at some point, stayed longer than they probably should have. I know I have.
Really? Can I ask what kept you there?
It wasn't one thing, it was more like, at the time, staying felt safer than the alternative, even though I wasn't happy. I think I convinced myself that unhappy but stable was better than the chaos of starting over.
So it's like you're choosing between two kinds of pain and one of them at least feels familiar?
Exactly. And when you're in it, that familiar pain doesn't seem as scary as the unknown. You know how to handle what you're already dealing with. But leaving? That's a whole different kind of fear.
I can see that. It's like you've built routines around this person. You've learned how to navigate their moods or their habits, and even if it's exhausting, at least you know the shape of it.
Right. And leaving means dismantling all of that and figuring out who you are without them, which is, I don't know, it's vulnerable in a way that staying isn't.
What about hope? Like, do you think people stay because they're hoping things will change?
Oh, absolutely. I think hope is one of the biggest reasons people stay, maybe even more than fear. You tell yourself that if you just give it a little more time or if this one thing shifts, then everything will click into place. And sometimes you see these little glimpses of what the relationship could be, and that keeps you holding on.
So you're not necessarily delusional, you're just optimistic in a way that might not be serving you.
Yeah, and I think there's also this idea that love is supposed to be hard work, right? So when things are difficult, you think, well, this is just what relationships are. And it becomes really hard to tell the difference between normal challenges and something that's actually damaging you.
That's a good point. Like, there's this cultural message that if you love someone enough, you should fight for it, and leaving feels like giving up.
Exactly. And then there's the history. Like, if you've been with someone for years, you shared so much memories, experiences, maybe even trauma. Walking away from that feels like erasing a whole chapter of your life, and that's really painful, even if the chapter wasn't good.
Right, because you're not just losing the person, you're losing the story you told yourself about your life with them.
Yeah, and I think that's something people don't realize until they're in it, how much of your identity gets wrapped up in being with someone. Like, who are you if you're not their partner anymore?
That's heavy. So it's almost like you're grieving a future that never actually existed, but that you believed in.
Exactly. You're mourning the life you thought you were building, even if that life was never real to begin with.
What about the people around you? Like, do you think friends and family play a role in keeping people in bad relationships?
Oh, definitely. I think there's a lot of quiet pressure that we don't talk about. Like, no one's outright saying, stay, but they're also not making it easy to leave. People will say things like, well, relationships take work, or nobody's perfect. And even though they mean well, it kind of makes you feel like leaving would be shallow or impulsive.
Right, like you're not tough enough or patient enough if you walk away.
Exactly. And then there's the whole social aspect of it. If you've been together for a long time, your lives are intertwined with other people. You have mutual friends, maybe you're close with their family, and leaving means disrupting all of that. It's not just about you and your partner, it's about everyone around you having to adjust.
So there's this guilt, like you're inconveniencing people by choosing to be happy.
Yeah, and honestly, I think some people also feel embarrassed. Like, I stayed this long. What does it say about me if I leave now? There's this fear that people will judge you for not leaving sooner or for staying in the first place.
That's such a trap, though, because either way, you're worried about what people think.
It is, and I think that's why so many people end up staying, because the external pressure, even if it's unspoken, feels too heavy to push against.
Can I ask, when you finally did leave, how did people react?
Honestly, some people were relieved, but some people, I don't know, they seemed almost disappointed. Like they had invested in the idea of us as a couple, and me leaving felt like I was letting them down.
That's really unfair.
It is. But I think people don't realize they're doing it. They just get attached to the version of you that exists in that relationship. And when you change it, it's uncomfortable for them.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but that makes sense. It's like you're asking them to reimagine you, and that takes effort.
Exactly. And not everyone's willing to do that.
Sorry, that got kind of heavy.
No, it's okay. I think it's important to talk about. You know what's interesting, though? Looking back, I think I stayed as long as I did because I didn't trust myself to be okay on my own. And leaving forced me to confront that, which was terrifying, but also kind of necessary.
So in a way, staying was protecting you from having to face something bigger.
Yeah, and I don't think I was ready to face it until I was, if that makes sense. Like, I can't say I regret staying because I don't think I could have left any sooner than I did. I needed that time to build up the courage, even if from the outside it looked like I was just stuck.
That's a really compassionate way to look at it. I think a lot of people would beat themselves up for not leaving sooner.
I did for a while, but eventually I realized that growth doesn't happen on anyone else's timeline. You leave when you're ready, and sometimes that takes longer than it should.
And maybe should isn't even the right word. Maybe it just takes as long as it takes.
Yeah, I think that's more accurate.
I think what strikes me most about this conversation is how much grace it requires for yourself and for other people who are going through it.
Absolutely. Because it's so easy to look at someone else's situation and think you'd handle it differently. But until you're in it, you don't really know.
Right. And I think that's worth remembering, especially if you have a friend or someone you care about who's in a relationship that doesn't seem healthy. You can't force someone to leave. All you can do is be there when they're ready.
And not judge them for how long it takes.
Exactly.
All right, I don't think we've solved anything here, but I do think we've talked through something real.
Yeah, and I think that's enough. If you're listening to this and you're in a relationship that doesn't feel right, we're not here to tell you what to do. We just hope you know that whatever you're feeling is valid and that you're not alone in it.
And that when you're ready, you'll know, even if it takes longer than you think it should.
Thanks for being so honest about this, Maya.
Thanks for asking.
All right, see you next time.
Bye.